It is the 28th day of April 2022. Good evening to you wherever you are and welcome to Pan-African Television. My name is Ivan Barnes Aban. We're streaming live on Facebook at Pan-African Television and we're live across 48 African countries and other parts of Europe via satellite. Well, this special program is put together purposely to elaborate more on the plight and injustices meted out to the people of Palestine. And of course, we have themed today's program the Quds Day 2022, as you can see clearly on our background, of course, which is the Arabian name for Jerusalem. Well, today we're going to be educating ourselves more on this day as we have special guests seated here with me in the studios to discuss this day extensively. Now, I'll quickly give you a line or two of what this day really signifies. I'm sure my guest will discuss this extensively. Now, the Quds Day is held on the last Friday of the holy month of Ramadan, and to proclaim the international solidarity of Muslims in support of the legitimate right of the people of Palestine. I'll quickly introduce my guest to you, and we can kickstart with the program. Today, I've been joined in the studio by Anas Sando, who is in the office of the National Imam of the Shia Muslim community in Ghana. And of course, I have been joined in the studio by Reverend Isaac Mensah, who is the lead pastor of Grace Gate Global Ministries. And of course, we've been joined in the studio by Comrade Kwesi Pratt Jr., who is the General Secretary for the Socialist Movement of Ghana. Good evening to you, gentlemen.
Hi.
How is it doing, sir?
Right,
so today we are discussing the Quds Day 2022. I want to start off with you, Mr. Anas Sando, especially because you're from the office of the National Imam of the Shia Muslim community. When we say the Quds Day, objectively, what does this day signify?
Yes, Al-Quds, as you've mentioned, is the Arabic word which denotes Jerusalem. And Al-Quds, or this particular day, is the brainchild of Imam Khomeini, that is the founder of the Islamic Republic of Iran, who designated this day purposely for the entire world to show solidarity with the oppressed people of Palestine and all oppressed people in the world, because the level of injustice and then the level of criminality, the level of racism being shown to the people of Palestine as a result of the iniquities and the lack of concern for world leaders like
Right.
members of the United Nations Security Council and what of you has brought us to this stage. So it is on this basis that, although it has an Islamic connotation, but the solidarity for the people of the oppressed people of Palestine is not restricted to only Muslims.
Okay.
Because we
Not
have
just
people,
Muslims.
not Muslims at all. It has to do with humanity. It has to do with justice. And anything that has to do with humanity or justice is not restricted to a religion. That is why you will find well-meaning people like Nelson Mandela and others showing their concern, showing solidarity, strong support for the oppressed people of Palestine. Yes.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Sando. Let me come to you, Reverend Isaac Mensah. I mean, you coming from a Christian background, what does this day really mean to you, the Quds Day? What does this mean to you?
thank you very much. I also use the opportunity to thank you very much and the leadership of this great television station and all our viewers. And first of all, the word Quds Day, meaning, like as you have explained and our brother was explaining, it means that there was a conflict that brought that Quds Day. And being as a man of God or somebody who believes in God or in Christ, it's all about making sure that there is peace in our society. Like what Imam said, it's all about humanity.
Right.
So right now, we are not talking about religion here. We are not talking about a particular group of people, but we are talking about peace in every area of our life.
Right.
And if there was a situation whereby brought disaster to humanity, there are people that were able to come out and say, no, we will not sit down to look for this thing to be happening. And now when you come to the Hebrew word, it's Jerusalem. Now, the Bible says we should pray for the peace of Jerusalem. So that means if there is a place called Jerusalem and there is a conflict, it means that the humanity will not have peace to stay. Now, for example, if there is no peace in this studio, I don't think we will have the access to come and sit down here and able to discuss. So the word Jerusalem means we should pray for the peace of the people of Jerusalem. And who is Jerusalem? We are the Jerusalem. We people on this earth here. So it is all about making sure that there is peace in every area of our life and able to put an end to everything that will bring a conflict between humanity.
Right. Thank you very much for your submission. Now let's move straight to Comrade Kwesi Jr. Now, still in talking about Al-Quds Day, what is the purpose of this very day? What does this day signify objectively?
Well, this is a day of freedom. This is a day to end racism. It's a day to express solidarity with the Palestinian people since 1948 have been so viciously exploited and oppressed by a Zionist racist entity which calls itself Israel. Now, it is significant to note that this year's Al-Quds Day, the celebrations have already begun. And a couple of days ago, hundreds of thousands of people poured out in the streets of London to protest against Israeli atrocities against the Palestinian people, to protest against the injustice which is being meted out to the Palestinian people, and to protest against the new apartheid, which is being visited on the Palestinian people. And it is important to recognize that in London, people of all faith, including Jews, participated in this mass demonstration against, apartheid Israel. I mean, I saw videos of the march in London, and I saw Jewish leaders actually in the forefront of the march of solidarity with Palestine. Now, I think it's important also to state that Al-Quds Day is actually the brainchild of Imam Khomeini, who everybody knows stood for justice for all people. He was a leader who, though was a religious leader, who though came from the Shia community, preached the unity of the world and preached against injustice against all people, irrespective of their religion. And this year's Al-Quds Day is gathering momentum throughout the world, in the United States, in Germany, in London, everywhere. Al-Quds Day is being observed, as an expression of solidarity with the people of Palestine. Now, this year's Al-Quds Day also appears to have a certain twist to it, a certain dimension to it. And that is because we are all seeing the videos of what is happening in the Al-Aqsa mosques. Women being beaten, tear gas being fired into a place of worship, the desecration of the mosque. And anybody who is religious, whether you're a Buddhist, whether you're a Jew, whether you're a Christian, whether you're a traditional religious believer and so on, ought to frown upon atrocities being committed in the house of God. If what is happening in the Al-Aqsa mosques were to happen in a church anywhere in the world, everybody will be outraged. You understand? And it doesn't matter whether it's a Catholic church or it's an Aladura church and so on. Places of worship deserve some respect, even from those who do not believe, in religion and so on. That is the core of people's belief. And I think that should be respected. So this year's happenings in the Al-Aqsa mosques and so on has spread the outrage across the world. Elderly women being beaten, young boys and children being arrested, tear gas being fired in the mosque and so on. It is clearly unacceptable. And I think that these videos, these pictures, have also stimulated the worldwide response, against the apartheid regime in Palestine.
Right. Thank you very much, Comrade Kwesi Pratt Jr. for your submission. Now I come to you, Reverend. Now, I mean, in listening to the submission by Comrade Kwesi Pratt Jr., he mentioned, I mean, some women being beaten, by some Zionist, group. I don't know if you understand what I'm saying. By some Zionist group who are obviously against the whole Al-Quds, sort of protest. But you coming from the religious background, most importantly the Christian background, what do you make of this? Obviously, we know who the Zionist people are. We know they are persons coming from the Israeli sort of government. What do you make of this whole situation?
Thank you very much. Now, when it comes to the issue of, let's say, the violent from a different perspective to a different body, like maybe I'm a Christian, but my partner is not a Christian, and it doesn't support or it doesn't believe what I'm doing, and it's coming to attack. Now, first of all, what is the reason why this conflict is coming? Why the Zionists are coming to attack the body of Christ? There must be a reason. And if there is a reason, then there must be a way out to put an end to it. Because everybody, like as Daddy said, everybody must have a freedom. Whatever religion you believe, there must be a freedom of worship. There must be a freedom of doing your things. So in aspect of all these things, we should make sure that there is peace in everything we do. We shouldn't make sure that my religion or my belief become a contrary to your belief. Now, if because of my belief as a Christian, I'm now going to criticize against who is not believe, that's where the conflict will come. We must make sure that now, even in the scripture, God give us a choice. I set life and death before you, and I wish you to choose life. So it is not about having a force of somebody not to do or what to do. You must have a freedom of doing your things. So if I believe in the Lord Jesus Christ, that is my faith. If somebody doesn't also believe it, that should not mean that I should condemn the person or I should make a way that will bring a conflict. Now, for example, I'm sitting with an imam. He's from a Muslim background. I'm from a Christian background. But we are all human beings. It is our tenacity of faith that differentiates the two of us. But at the same time, we are all worshiping God. So whatever that I would do against him will bring misunderstanding. And that's the misunderstanding that will bring the chaotic situation among us. And if that doesn't happen, there is no peace. So we should first of all understand the human race. We will understand the faith everybody believes. It is not by force that I should tell him to come to the Christianity. No. And that is where the body of Christ today, or as a humanity, we should make sure that these things spell out very well. So that what happened, that it brought this Accused Day will not happen again. Because there was a source why this thing happened. Whereby a young guy can look at an elderly woman that can be a mother or a grandmother and begin to beat her and begin to do all kind of things to her. There was a reason why. Somebody engineered it. There was a cause. So that is why we need to make sure that there is peace in everything we do. Everybody have it all right to believe in the God or in the faith he or she believe. And if we do that, there will be peace there. Because look at for today, I'm here as a reverend minister. Imam is here and Daddy is here. Now, if there is no love, if there is no unity, how will the three of us combine here? Because why? What we are doing here, we are not here for a specific religion, but we are here for the peace of everybody.
I wanted to find out something from you. What does the Bible say about Israel? What is the whole scope of Israel? When it comes to the Bible?
Look, I think it's important to make the point that the problem in Palestine has no religious dimension.
Right.
Okay.
Yes.
The problem in Palestine is a problem of colonial occupation.
Right.
You understand? It's important also to make the point that the Palestinians are not Muslims.
Right.
They are Muslims in Palestine. They may be the dominant religion in Palestine. but there are Christians in Palestine, there are Jews in Palestine, there are people of all faith in Palestine. You understand? So this attempt to reduce the Palestinian conflict to a conflict between Muslims and Christians is not true. Now, it is important also to remember, and you are going to make reference to the Bible and so on.
Of course.
If you look at the Church of Nativity, where Jesus Christ was born, the Church of Nativity is in Palestine.
Right now.
You understand? And that is one of the holiest shrines of Christians. It is not in Israel. It is in Palestine. And if you look at the repression against the Palestinian people, the Israelis do not discriminate. They repress the Muslims in much the same way that they repress the Christians. I mean, recently, the Christian Orthodox Church in Palestine was so massively repressed that it triggered protests from Christians, across the world. You understand? No religious doctrine supports the forceful eviction of people from their homes. No religious doctrine would support the destruction of schools, the destruction of hospitals, the destruction of cultural centers, and so
high
on.
Unemployment rate.
No religious doctrine will support that. There's no religious doctrine which can support the imprisonment of all the people who live on the Gaza Strip. All the people who live on the Gaza Strip are virtually imprisoned. You understand? They are surrounded by barricades. In fact, if you're a Palestinian and you have to move from the West Bank to Gaza, you virtually need permission of the Israelis to be able to do that. That's untenable. And this is not religious. You understand? And if it were religious, how come that a couple of days ago when the demonstrations broke out in the UK, you had Jews in the forefront of the demonstration? Because Israel is supposed to be a Jewish state. And yet, there are Jews all over the world who are opposed to Israeli apartheid, who are opposed to the treatment of the Palestinian people. And I think that's important that we take this into account. But besides, Judaism is not Christianity. Okay?
Right.
Christianity is based on the New Testament. Judaism is based on the Old Testament. You understand? And Jews do not accept Jesus as the Son of God. In fact, it is Muslims who accept Jesus as a prophet. You understand? So this religious interpretation is deliberately done in order to obscure the real issues when it comes to discussing Palestine.
Come on, let me still stay with you before I come to Sheikh. Now let's look at the real demands of the Palestinian people.
The Palestinians are not making any extraordinary demands. They are making demands that all human beings in any part of the world make.
Okay.
One. They don't want anybody, any force, to be arresting babies and children and putting them in prison. They want the release of all Palestinian prisoners in Israeli jails. They want to have access to potable water, which is a demand that all of us make. They want to be free to choose their own governments. They want to be free to decide their own destiny, their own future. They want a return of all the Palestinians who were expelled from occupied Palestine, who are spread all over the world. They want their return back to Palestine. In fact, if you look at Israeli law, the Israelis have a law on the right to return. That Israeli law says that Jews anywhere in the world can return to Israel. But Palestinians outside Palestine are not allowed to return to Palestine. What kind of law is that?
Wow.
You understand? So this is the situation in Palestine. The situation in Palestine is dire. If you go to the United Nations and you look at the record of voting and so on, I mean, look, the whole world is calling or used to call for a two-state solution to the Palestinian crisis. Of course, now the two-state solution is dead.
Is dead now, yeah.
But the whole world used to call for a two-state solution. The vast majority of members of the United Nations have supported the demands of the Palestinian people for an independent state. Sometimes the vote is taken, less than 4 countries vote against it. When it goes to the Security Council, only the United States of America vetoes those resolutions and so on. So how come that the whole world is outraged by what is happening to the Palestinian people, and yet there's no movement to liberate the Palestinian people from exploitation and oppression?
Right, thank you very much, comrade. Now, let me come to you, Sheikh. Now, Sheikh, what is your take so far on this subject matter?
Yes, as Comrade Kwasi Pratt has already elaborated the whole issue. It has to do with oppression. It has to do with racism. And it is a conflict between Palestinians who are Muslims, who are Christians, against Zionists. But the most important thing that we must understand is that we are not talking about Jews, because we don't we do not abhor or hate Jews, but we frown upon Zionism because it is racism. And the most commonest issue that binds all of us together is our humanity. So whenever oppression is being meted out to a section of the world populace, it is the concern of others to also struggle to liberate the oppressed. And it is first of all about sovereignty. It is purely about sovereignty, and then the sovereignty of the Palestinians has been thrown to the dogs. And before 1948, there was no any place in this world called Israel. It was Palestine. And when we talk about Jerusalem too, under international law, Jerusalem was a subject of final status negotiation until former U.S. President Donald Trump unilaterally declared Jerusalem as the capital of the Zionist regime of Israel, which is totally against international law. So it's just like apartheid South Africa, where the white minority were subjugating, oppressing the blacks. It's the same thing that is happening in Palestine. And when initially it was about the two-state solution, where there was some level of hope for the Palestinians to aspire. But of late, it appears the two-state solution is now being relegated to the background. And more to the point, whereas most of the Israelis, over 6 million Israelis, have been rendered refugees, and if you look at the current immigration policies of the Zionist regime, the 2 million Arabs who are both Muslims and Christians, according to the new immigration policy of the Zionist regime, there is a plan to also render the 2 million population refugees, to remove them outside the jurisdiction of Israel. So I think one can say it is as a result of the duplicity of the world powers. When I say the world powers, I mean the United States, Britain, France, because the United States, for instance, seem to be the only country that is motivating oppression. It's really oppression that is motivating the carnage that we are currently witnessing.
What is that reason for?
What is?
And what's the reason? Like you clearly said,
yes.
If you look at the United States, they are so much motivated in, as it were, pushing that sort of carnage.
Yes, you know, initially, taking you back to the Paris Peace Conference after World War I,
Right.
the United States was neutral. Neutral in the sense that prior to the establishment of an independent state for the Zionists, the United States was neutral, because when they were agitating, when they were debating as to whether they should pave the way for the the establishment of an independent Zionist state, the then president of the United States had to question the issue and then form a commission, the King-Crane Commission.
Yeah.
King and Crane were Europeans who spoke fluent Arabic. So they were sent into the territory to find out as to whether it was feasible to establish an independent homeland for the Zionists. So they went and then toured the entire peninsula, and then they came out and said it will have a devastating toll and a long-term negative impact on the peace of the region if an independent homeland for the Jews or for the Zionists is going to be established. So it was, as time goes on, you know, the Jews were also, or tried to also assert themselves, and they were able to influence policy makers within the United States. So as we talk right now, when it comes to the foreign policy of the United States, the Jewish lobby, that is the IPAC, Israeli Public Affairs committee, they influence predominantly the foreign policy of the United States. So any foreign policy intervention that the United States wants to take, it is in support of the regime of Israel. So it has emboldened Israel. So the United States is not only supporting Israel by its policies, when it also supports Israel by exporting arms, sophisticated arms to the regime. So it is on the basis of making Israel appear to be a superpower in the region. And more to the point, Israel is the only entity in the region that has nuclear warheads, because the policy makers in the United States themselves know very well that there will be a time Israel will be toppled. Toppled in the sense that despite the so-called military superiority, in 2006 there was an open arm confrontation between the Zionist regime and then the Hezbollah in Lebanon. Hezbollah is just a political party, but in fact it was a decisive war that sent some kind of signal to the international system that military superiority is not a yardstick for victory. There is a need to establish justice, to let the Palestinians be able to assert themselves to be able to make their own determination, to realize that there are also people who can also form their own government and then live as a sovereign state, just like the way Israel is currently is. Because if you can support the regime of Israel to become a full sovereign state, why not also support the Palestinians who also realize the same ambition? So it is on the basis of this discrimination, right, this existential threat and oppression that the Palestinians are agitating.
Yeah. Before I bring Reverend in, let me finally get this from you. What I mean, the state of human rights in Palestine as it stands now. We know of the use of mass weapon of destruction. We know of the destroying of state institutions and all that. What is your take on that?
Yes, it is against international law.
Of course,
it is against international law to target symbols,
yes,
religious symbols, national symbols, or what have you, especially the current carnage we are witnessing in the mosque, Al-Aqsa Mosque. And then one important thing that I want to make is regarding Al-Aqsa. Al-Aqsa is the third holiest place in Islam,
right,
after Mecca and Medina. And then, since it is situated within Jerusalem, the Jews call it the Western, the Temple Mount. And the Zionists believe that that was the same spot where the synagogue, the Jewish, temple, the Temple of Solomon stood. So there is even the aspiration from the radical Zionists. There will be a day where that particular mosque will make way for the establishment or for the re-establishment of the Temple of Solomon. So looking at the way things are going, I think it wouldn't be far-fetched for one to say that the current issue or the cause of Palestine may be a conduit to Third World War. That is just a prediction one can easily make. Yes.
Right. Thank you very much. Reverend, come in for us. What is your take so far?
Thank you very much. For now, and for our belief and in essence of whatever humanity is going through, things are not going on well with our people of Palestine in terms of freedom and justice to do whatever you want to do, to go wherever you want to go. And I believe that since the word Al-Quds represents Jerusalem, we need to pray for the people of Palestine. We need to intercede for the people of Palestine. I remember in the Bible, the people of Israel was in the bondage. God had to send Moses to go and fight and bring them out of the bondage. So for this moment, I believe that the only thing we can do to give the people of Palestine the momentum of freedom is we interceding on behalf of the people of Palestine, and I believe that there is nothing God cannot do.
Thank you very much. Now, let me come to you, Comrade Kwesi Pratt. Still on the issue of human rights situation in Palestine, what can be done as it stands now? What is your take on this?
Well, I think we should do what we do to all nations, violate the rights of others. And so,
Okay.
I mean, over the last couple of months, 2 months, there's been so much noise about Ukraine, the numbers of people who have died and so on. But there's not a whimper about Palestine. I mean, this hypocrisy, this double standard ought to stop. The double standards ought to stop. You understand?
Right.
If you take Ukraine, there are those who believe that Russia has legitimate security concerns. There are those who say that no country would allow another country to plant weapons, which can hit its capital in 5 minutes and so on. What about Israel?
Very legitimate question.
What about Israel? What is it that is causing so many Palestinian deaths? What is it that is causing the destruction, of agricultural lands? What is the reason for subverting the fishing industry in Palestine? What is the reason? You see, history teaches us some very important lessons. After World War II, when the Zionists began their campaign for a new homeland and so on, they went fishing for a homeland. Do you know that Uganda in Africa was selected as an area which was going to be used for the creation of the State of Israel? Uganda.
Wow.
Uganda. So the Palestinians today are suffering what the Ugandans would have suffered if Uganda had been chosen as the place to create that new state of Israel. You understand? Now, somehow, the Palestinians were tricked into peace negotiations leading to what is called the Oslo Agreement.
The Oslo Agreement, yeah.
So far, only the Palestinians have religiously implemented the agreement, the Oslo Agreement.
So what was the terms for the Oslo Agreement? What were the terms?
The terms of the Oslo Agreement was that it was going to be a two states, with secure borders. Israel was going to be a state with its own secure borders. Palestine was going to be a state with its own secure borders and so on. What has happened? Where is the Palestinian state? Where is the Palestinian state envisaged in the Oslo Accord? And there are many other things and so on, you understand? Israel is one country which does not respect international law at all. As we speak, Israel has nuclear weapons and has decided not to sign the nuclear non-proliferation agreement. As we speak, the Western countries led by the United States of America, with Israel giving them backing vocals and so on, are saying that, oh, it is possible that in the future Iran can create a nuclear weapon, and therefore let's impose sanctions on Iran. Does this make sense? Not that Iran has nuclear weapons, so by their conjecture, they say that it is possible that at some future date, Iran may have nuclear weapons. Look at all the sanctions that have been imposed on Iran. So the double standard is killing all of us. You understand?
To comment, you're making a point that in Israel, they do not even respect all international laws or any international law. So if this is the situation, why has there not been any sanctions on them? Or is it as a result of the backends by the United States of America?
We should be asking Joe Biden. You understand? We should be asking the United States of America why it has blocked all attempts.
Because if sanctions are imposed on Russia,
we should be asking the United States of America why it has blocked all attempts to discipline Israel, to make Israel respect international law. Only the United States can answer this question. Somehow, the United Nations is so undemocratic, it's unbelievable. The whole world can take a position. One country, United States, or any of the 5 permanent members can veto that decision by the whole world in the Security Council. So this very undemocratic nature of the UN structure also helps Israel to continue misbehaving. Also helps Israel to continue the violation of rights and so on. But you see, Israel is not the first apartheid state in the world.
of course,
We had apartheid South Africa. And we defeated apartheid South Africa. You understand? We can defeat Israel too, using the same methods that we used to defeat apartheid South Africa. Why? And that is why we have to support the BDS movement.
Okay.
You understand? That is why we have to support the BDS movement. Because that tactic was a tactic which was used against the apartheid regime. We isolated the apartheid regime. We made the apartheid regime feel the impact of its own recklessness. And we can make Israel, which is also an apartheid state, feel the impact of its own recklessness and so on. That's all.
Thank you very much. So finally, let me come to Sheikh. Now, Comrade has mentioned, made so many points about what can be done to bring Israel down or the Israelis down. In your own estimation, what other methods can be adopted in breaking the Zionist, Israeli government down so that we can have a free Palestine and they could go and have their lands that have been occupied by Israel? What can be done as well?
Yes, first of all, the international system needs to reconsider its ways and manner of taking decisions, especially when it comes to the security of the region.
The international community.
Exactly. And then secondly, members within the region. When I say members within the region, I mean the Arab League, including the AU, the international community, the United Nations, the AU, the EU, and other regional bodies need to come together to understand that the level of oppression, the level of genocide being meted out to the Palestinian people is enough, and there is the need to go back to international law. And when we go back to international law, then it means we are going back to the 1948 borders,
okay,
where the Palestinians will be given back their lands, and then so that they will have a sizable population to control, and they will assert their own sovereignty, and then be able to have their ability to conduct relations with other states as well, just as Israel is. So besides, if in the absence of taking a different dimension in order to realize justice, I think it is going to be very, very, very difficult for the Palestinians to accept what is going on, because there is no day the Palestinians will ever recognize Israel as a sovereign entity.
Also gradually taking over Gaza as well.
Exactly, and only God knows what this particular trend will reach. only God knows how, what do you call it, the final issue or this may be. Because currently, as we talk right now, as I said earlier on, Hezbollah is just closer to the regime of Israel.
Yeah.
And Hezbollah is a non-state actor, but very, very powerful militarily, very, very skilled when it comes to the battlefield, to an extent that they've been able to withstand the Israeli army despite its level of sophistication. And then moreover, the Palestinian Hamas too will continue to resist by arms and by enemies, diplomatically and by arms. And then the Islamic Republic of Iran too will by all means continue to resist. So as time goes on, resistance continues. As far as the oppression continues, resistance too continues. And then as Uncle Kwesi Pratt mentioned, injustice has never seen the day, what do you call it? The daylight. By all means, one day, just as we've seen, only, what do you call it? If, if a statement had been made that apartheid South Africa will wane, there are many people who will deny. But today, apartheid South Africa had been, relegated to the background. It is now confined to the dustbin of history, although there are still memories for one to consider. So we believe that since injustice cannot last forever, I think there will be a day that the Palestinians will also be able to assert their full sovereignty, that they will be able to also master the courage to to operate, whether through diplomatically or through arms. But the most, before we reach to the belligerent aspect of the issue, I think the most important thing is for the United States to understand that continuing to support Israel by arms and by finance and what have you can never and ever stop the Palestinian resistance. Because as time, day in, day out, you could see that countries like Turkey, Qatar, the Islamic Republic of Iran continue to support the Palestinian cause. And I don't think, that is not the best way to go. Because me sitting like this, it would have been good for one to say, okay, Israel has its own state, Palestine too has its own state, so that there will be, interstate harmony. Yeah. Interstate harmony, so that there will be relations, economic, political relations between the two. But here is the case, 1948, Israel has been given a full sovereignty. And the argument that led to the establishment of Israel as a sovereign entity is very, very obscure up to date. Because John F. Kennedy came and then argued that the philosophy behind the establishment of the regime of Israel is that land without people and the people without land. And then both sides of the sentence are legally pathetic, logically unsound, because that land was not without people. Palestinians have been living there, Jews, Arabs, Christians have been living there for centuries. So the people, there have been people living in that land for centuries, and then those people without land too is not logical. It's not rational at all, because the Zionists were in Europe. Even the first president of the regime of Israel was in Europe, Mr. Chaim Weizmann. The current, Prime Minister, Naftali Bennett, Benjamin Netanyahu, all of them were born in Europe. They were not citizens of, the region. They were all transported to come and form, a state, and then name it as the Zionist regime of Israel. Yeah. So,
and even that, the Arabs rejected it.
Exactly. They rejected it, but by the force of arms, they were able to assert themselves. And now, as we talk, Israel seems to be the largest exporter of arms in the region, and one of the largest exporters of arms in the world, thanks to the help being given to the regime of Israel by the United States and their Western allies. Yes.
Now, talk of United States, I just had a question from a friend. It says that if Israel has a support from the United States of America, then Palestine should also get another super country and also align with. What do you think of that?
And the fight will not stop.
Yes, it depends on the interests of that particular superpower, because countries are rational actors in a way, because they are very, very calculative in taking certain decisions.
What they will get from you if they should align with you.
Exactly. Moreover, before even a particular country will, like Russia or China, will support the Palestinians, it all has to do with the posture of the United Nations Security Council. I think it is going to be very, very, very difficult for Palestine, as we talk right now, to assert its full to realize its ambitions to become a sovereign state, because of the way and manner the international system has been structured. Because when there was a vote in the United Nations Security Council to make Israel a sovereign state, but the United States vetoed it.
Yeah.
So the power of veto is making it absolutely difficult for Palestine. I think maybe unless a miracle. So countries are calculative when it comes to taking decisions to support any other, all the chaos happening in the region. If you look at ISIS, the way ISIS ravaged Syria and Iraq, all were being supported by the West, by the United States and Israel. ISIS, they've been, because the Syrian government was totally against the regime of Israel, was totally against Zionism, was in support of the Palestinian cause. And the Islamic Republic of Iran would have been the next target. But the reason why Iran is now sitting where it is now is because an attempt to attack Iran, like the way the United States did to Iraq,
Yeah.
the entire region is going to be set ablaze. And that is not this is a joke. And any country that is going to provide its provide a air base or any base or land base at all for the United States or for the regime of Israel to use it as a large part to attack the Islamic Republic of Iran, the entire region is going to be set ablaze. Even Israel itself is not going to sit idle. So they are calculative. They've seen that taking such a dangerous adventure is not going to inure to their benefit. And that is why the Islamic Republic of Iran, they don't have any, the only alternative to deal with Iran is through economic sanctions. And the economic sanctions seem not to be working. Because the more you impose economic sanctions, the more Iran continues to resist. So only God knows where this imposition of sanctions, threats, and what have you will, reach. So the most important thing is to understand that the world needs peace. We all need peace. It's just like what Comrade Kwesi Pratt just mentioned, what is happening in Ukraine. What is happening in Ukraine is just the tip of an iceberg. The people who died in Syria, as compared to the carnage in Ukraine, is just something insignificant. When when violence happens somewhere, despite the number of people who are killed, it is not much of an issue. But look at Ukraine. Just because Russia has decided to make an intervention, a genuine intervention, because there is no, because as of right now, Israel carries frequent strikes in Syria, purportedly hitting Iranian targets, because they don't want Syria to accommodate Iran along its borders. And it's the same threat that Russia is facing. But look at the kind of hypocrisy, duplicity that is being meted to the Russian intervention. So until the hypocrisy is being addressed, I don't think we can make a headway.
You know, I see that we're running out of time, but just a very short comment. The vast majority of the peoples of the world support Palestine. If you look at the population of China, that's significant. China has supported the people of Palestine throughout their struggles. Okay? India declares solidarity with the people of Palestine. Russia declares solidarity with the people of Palestine. Iran supports the people of Palestine, and so on. So if you're looking at numbers, you know, the population of countries and so on, the populations in the countries which support Palestine are far more than the populations of the Western countries and so on. Indeed, before the demise of the Union of Soviet Socialist Republics, it was a key supporter of the Palestinian cause. But see, we're not just talking about support for Palestine. I think it's important also to talk about Palestine's support for just causes around the world.
Right.
Palestine keenly supported the fight against apartheid in South Africa. And there's a very famous video of Western journalists asking Mandela why he's still friends to Arafat and so on. And he says,
Yes.
look, you don't choose our friends for us.
Yes.
We choose our own friends. And we choose our friends on the basis of those who support our cause.
Of course, yes.
And that in the course of our struggle, the Palestinian people stood with us shoulder to shoulder in the battle against apartheid. You understand? So it's not, we are not counting numbers of supporters. What we have at stake is an unjust world order, is an undemocratic United Nations and so on, who does not enable the will of the majority to find expression. That's the problem. And indeed, we have the same problem in the battle against apartheid in South Africa. The Western countries did not support the ANC. They did not support the Communist Party of South Africa. They did not support the people of South Africa fighting against apartheid. They aligned themselves with the apartheid regime. You understand? But injustice would never triumph. There's no way injustice will triumph. Justice will always defeat injustice. And looking at the way the world is moving and shaping, the recalibration of the world and so on, I am so very hopeful that in the not too distant future, Palestine will be free.
Amen.
Thank you very much, Comrade Kwesi Pratt Jr. Reverend, your final words.
My final words will continue from where comrades end about the freedom. And I think Imam also talked about peace. And that is the only thing right now we can also do in support of our people, our brothers and our sisters in Palestine. Because there is no way we can able to rise up right now here physically and say we want to go and fight for the people of Palestine. But we can go into our faith in prayer to support whatever God intended for the people of Palestine. And I believe that God doesn't hate the people of Palestine, and it's also not encouraged seeing the people, the children, the adults, and then the aged people being die by day. So I believe that with peace and with our prayer and our support, I believe that God will give us a wonderful state of Palestine.
Right. Sheikh, your final words. At the end of this year's Quds, what should we expect?
We are expecting the international system or the United Nations to reconsider its posture regarding the Palestinian cause. And in doing so, it is only dialogue in the spirit of honesty, justice, that can let us weather the storm and then assert peace, lasting solution and peace to the region and then the entire world.
Right. Thank you very much. Comments, your final words.
Well, no matter what happens, Palestine will be free.
Thank you very much. Well, so this has been our show, the Al Quds Day. Like Comrade Kwesi Pratt stated, justice will always defeat injustice. Justice will always defeat injustice. Viva to the people of Palestine. My name is Ivan Bans Aban, and I've been the moderator for today's Al Quds Day. Do enjoy the rest of our program. This is Pan African TV.
موطني الجلال والجمال والثناء والبهاء في رباك والحياة والنجاة والهناء والرجاء في هواك في هواك. هل أراك سالما منعما وغانما مكرما، سالما منعما وغانما مكرما. هل أراك في علاك تبلغ السماك، تبلغ السماك موطني موطني. موطني موطني. الشباب لن يكل همه أن يستقل أو يبيد أو يبيد. نستقي من الردى ولن نكون للعدا كالعبيد كالعبيد. لا نريد ذلنا المعبدا وعيشنا المنكدا، ذلنا المعبدا وعيشنا المنكدا. لا نريد بل نعيد مجدنا التاليد، مجدنا التاليد. موطني موطني. مجدنا وعهدنا وواجب من الوفاء يهزنا يهزنا. غاية تشرف وراية ترفرف، غاية تشرف وراية ترفرف. يا هناء في علاك قاهرا عيداك، قاهرا عيداك. موطني موطني.
Truly African. Truly African. Truly African. African.
Hello and welcome to Daily Debrief from People's Dispatch. I'm Pragya, and today in our first story, the Supreme Court in the Philippines has refused to strike down a draconian anti-terrorism law. American billionaire Elon Musk is now set to take over Twitter, and a SIPRI report finds war expenses are higher than ever. On 7 December last year, the Philippines Supreme Court refused to strike down a stringent anti-terrorism law. Now it has turned down appeals against that ruling. There have been widespread attacks on civil liberties in the Philippines. Thousands are said to be in prison or subjected to torture and other forms of abuse by the state. There have been extrajudicial killings and disappearances of political dissidents. Last year, the court removed parts of the law allowing that they affected freedom of expression and the right to protest, but rights activists say the law as a whole has a chilling effect on democratic rights and they want it declared unconstitutional. 37 petitions challenged the December ruling, but the court has said they could not raise substantial issues and arguments. Anish from People's Dispatch will explain more. Anish, what is the problem with this law?
Well, one of the main things that they raised contentions was about how the ATA can actually just term anybody a terrorist. Now, this is a very wide-ranging power, and even the term terrorist has its own political implications that, in most countries and most governments don't really try to define. Even here, we don't have a proper